All right. Well, hey, man, thanks so much for sitting down with me this afternoon. We've been talking for a while now about trying to have some follow-up Q&A sessions just to be able to dig a little bit deeper into the sermons, especially for topics that are going to be a little bit harder for people to wrap their minds around as we get into our series on anxiety and the fact that our peace has come in Jesus. One of the things I think that is going to be something that happens more often than we maybe even think is that sometimes these sermons are going to create more questions than answers.
Sure.
And so I just wanted to sit down and ask some of the questions that I had and dig into some of these things. So as we get started, you said in your sermon that the number one prayer need in our church is anxiety. We get prayer requests for depression and anxiety all the time through our knots and GCs and those prayer reports that come through. Well, when you see that particular prayer request, as often as we do, what do you think that says about our cultural moment, both inside and outside the church? And when you see that, how do you pray for those people when they ask for that?
I think it says two things, really. First is it's a very positive thing. The stigma around those things, it has fallen or is falling right now.
Yeah.
I think people have always dealt with anxiety. Yep. We look at Scripture and Jesus addresses anxiety again and again. We see the writers of Scripture addressing worry and anxiety, Old Testament and New Testament. But for so long, you can have this stigma and these stereotypes that surround it, so people want to talk about it. Yeah. They privatize it, and in the dark, I believe God's enemy and our enemy, the devil, he's rules in that, and he terrorizes people. So I'm glad for that. I think that the stigma is coming down. Yep. The second part of that, though, is I think on the other end of the spectrum, it can become normal, everyday kind of a situation to where we ignore it like it's something that ought not to continue in our lives the way that it is. Right. That we don't need to see God rescue us from it and progress us through it and transform us in spite of it. Yeah. So I think we can fall in either of those ditches. So how I pray for people is one is I'm praying for the exact situation they're walking through. They name a person or they name a situation that they're praying through that they're stressed or anxious about, or maybe they're dealing with panic attacks or anxiety issues. I'll pray for those, but then I'm asking God to reveal beyond that. What's underneath that? What's going on that's causing that? Help them to find wholeness and healing in that situation completely so that this doesn't continue to be something they struggle with.
Absolutely.